Good morning, everybody. It is Laser here with another weekend video analysis on our favorite stock on the stock market, NIO. And I'm here to share with you in today's video as to where I see the stock going into next week. Before I begin, today is Saturday, 9:53 in the morning. Wait, what is the date today? Today is Monday, October 13th. The time is flying. Almost Halloween, almost Christmas. And I know a lot of you guys who are tuning in are probably wondering, what the heck's going on with the stock market? What's going on with NIO? What's happening? Is it okay? What's happening here? And I'm here to share that for you. And just before I begin, and I always start off all my videos, I'd like to just quickly say this is just my opinion. Nothing I say here is financial advice. I've been wrong in the past before. If you're making a big financial decision, please do your own due diligence and your own research. Having said that, before I dive in, and you guys may have caught in one of my tweets where I talked about like going for walks and doing a lot of walking. I just wanted to tell you guys a little bit, like over the past probably 30 or 40 days, I've been going for like daily walks. My mental health and my physical health has never been any better. Actually, my physical health has been better, but it's been improvement. But my mental health hasn't been any better, and I've been taking care of myself, going for walks, working out, eating healthy. We're all in the stock market for one reason, and that's to make money. But with that comes a lot of stress. You know, you don't want to stress yourself out over price action, over the stock. The stock market can be very, very stressful. It can do a toll and a number on you when you're constantly watching it day to day. So I say this as just a healthy lifestyle recommendation. If you're not already doing this, go outside, go for a walk, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, take deep breaths. Everything's going to be okay. I know it looks scary right now and the whole market looks scary, but these things happen. And if you watch my last week's video, you shouldn't be super shocked to see the current price action. Now, I was anticipating $8.40. I was anticipating that we would get up to $8.40. We did not, and we did not have to. And we've actually already met, by the way, and I'm going to dive right in here to the analysis. We've already met the conditions of completing the cup, okay? And I'm just going to hide this for now. We're going to use our highlighter. We're going to talk about this. We've met the conditions. I don't know why it does this. There we go. Holding so hard on my mouse so it doesn't like break up. There's our cup. And it looks like a pretty obvious handle that's forming. Now, I was anticipating $8.40 as a potential because, and the reason, and just as a fresh refresher for you guys, and we're going to actually have to turn that back on. I had it hidden. Was 840 was a major Fibonacci trend line here, and so this was something that I saw here. But it looks like it's starting its handle. I mean, it's down 13% one candle. That's a lot of momentum. That's kind of shifting in the other direction. We'll talk about the velocity in just a second, which is our indicator down here. And I'm going to go back to hiding this. I'm going to go back to cleaning up the chart here. So I can't stand a messy chart. You all know that about me. Messy charts are hard to read. You want it nice and clean. So what do we have here, by the way? So obviously there was like that rising wedge that actually did turn out. Now in the logarithmic scale, it actually broke under, retested, and then broke down. In the regular scaling, if I were to switch this over, it also broke out of this on that day. It did just break. It just went boom. It was actually looking quite good. It was actually making higher lows up until this one candle. Now, one candle doesn't necessarily change the trend, but it is something that we want to look at. So we will be diving a lot closer, and we'll be trying to, see everything. And we'll talk about the good. We'll talk about the bad. But I was anticipating $8.40. If you watched my last week's video, I was saying, okay, if it rises to $8.40 and it pulled off a Robin Hood as in the stock Robinhood. And I want to also address, I was calling Carvana Savannah. I apologize because we talked about Carvana, and I was reading the ticker CVNA, which was Savannah. I apologize. So that must have annoyed a few of you. I won't get that wrong again if we ever talk about that again. But I want to take us back to Robinhood. Robinhood's a very good example actually here of something that we can kind of expect here, where you're very early on in that stock market reversal. So I'm going to zoom in. It's tough to see now because of how tremendous it's done. But I think it's a really good case study as to what you can expect from NIO moving forward here. I'm zooming in here so that it becomes a little bit more like zoomed in as to what we're working with here. You'll notice right over here, it made a new high and it gave you, after making that new high, which was the cup, an approximate, let's see, does that change? Okay, on the log scale, it gave you an approximate 50% retracement from 1394. Literally tagged the 50% retrace. That was it. It took time. In fact, how long did it take before it started going again? About 48 days. Now, I want to bring your attention to this. Took about 30 days. I mean, if you want to measure that, it's like 42 days of this rally. I mean, actually, if I go from here, 40 days. About 40 days up. I mean, if we were being honest, let's just do it like this. 36 days up, almost balanced. You can see how it's balanced. 36 days up, 40 days down. Off it goes for its next cycle. It's common when you see, and I've been noticing this a lot more, that when you get these rallies that last for a long, extended duration for 36 days, you get pullbacks that last for extended durations. And they can kind of give you an estimate for kind of like what you're expecting as far as timeline goes. Now, I'm trying to show this as a use case example here, where you have a cup and handle that formed before it went nuclear. Nuclear as in the stock going up as in a good way, in a very, very good way. Where is my tool? So here we go. No, not that tool. Sorry, highlighter. So as you can see here, that was your cup. That was your handle. The rest was history. The rest was history, as you guys can see. And it's funny because you know what this handle actually does? This handle that's forming forms like a long-term trend line that it just bounces from. Bounce, consolidation, bounce, consolidation. And even on the regular scale, look how weird that makes it. But it still applies. Bounce, bounces, and then it goes parabolic. This thing's gone complete bonkers, parabolic. It actually made a bigger cup and handle. In fact, before we jump back into, and this is not meant to be a Robinhood analysis, but it is meant to actually get your brain thinking about what will happen when NIO takes out the all-time highs and show you the realistic possibilities of like these $163 seems like the most realistic target for this cup and handle. So let's go back. I'm sure you guys are tired of Robinhood. You guys are like, what the hell's happening to NIO? I show this to you because it's important, because it's a similar example here. So I'm just going to erase the drawings here. And if we were to measure, like this was a whole move in itself, this to that, we'll use log, because that's how we did it before. The equivalent, by the way, the equivalent price target is 516. Now, initially, I was thinking we'd hit 840 on this rally, which would make it around 528. But I mean, like, we're talking pennies here. And let's measure something for a second, shall we? That was 90 days. Okay. Tremendous long rally. What do we know about NIO on downtrends? Most downtrends take 90 days. If this is the start of a downtrend, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to take up to 90 days, but it potentially could. And you could see it. It's funny you look at these dates, by the way. I measure this around 85 days. I take the top there. December 29th, end of the year. What happens in January? Those really big options. So how about this? Maybe it comes down. You get a test of 574, the mini rally to the lower high to 654. It works itself down. Or it'll be more like this. Cools off here at the 50%. Off it goes. And that's your kind of Robin Hood fractal, your parabolic fractal. It's almost kind of like that, right? Kind of coming around there and off it goes. And I think that's the rest will be history. I truly do believe the future is very, very bright. Just look at every other stock in the stock market. AMD, minus 7%, Nvidia 5%, to everything went down. The whole market like dropped. So it's not like a one-off thing. If it was like everything going up and NIO dropping, totally different story. NIO went down with the rest of the market. So it's not super unusual. And along with China as well. China had a pretty tough day. It was with like the catalyst was like those tariff newses. But like after market, if you guys heard, Trump said he's still going to have his meeting with President Xi, and so the speculation is he's going to maybe change his mind, and all of a sudden this was like some fake dip. Now, if you erase here, by the way, everything. Am I on the logarithmic scale? By the way, okay, so it didn't. I didn't draw that perfect, but it did. Oh no, did I do that right? It's still holding on that log scale, and I bet you on the regular scale it's also still holding. We're still holding. Nothing here is actually technically broken, and the bottom of that trend line does bring you to around 5. It's funny that brings you to a major fib level 590, which if I were to measure that. Maybe it's not a 50%. You might only get a 0.382 retracement. So a big level, and it looks like it's trying to hang on to 652. It lost that in after hours. If it doesn't hold that, you got 573. It doesn't have to necessarily go down to the 50%. Maybe it's shallow. And maybe it holds on to 573. Maybe that's where your bottom is going to form here. Again, on the weekly. Now, there's a bit of a lag here because of the way it's smoothed out, but this is the start of its pullback. It's pulling back here. That's your pullback on that weekly time frame that's starting here. On the 24 hours, we just broke below the 200-day moving average. Last time we were above that was in July. So it finally broke below it. You could take a look. The last time we broke below it on any of our major rallies, it's usually followed by either consult. Now, I want to say things are different. I'll take us back to study Hood again. We're going to go back to this time where it, where was it? It was right here. It was right here, sorry. Broke under, but noticed stayed relatively above the midline. And off it went. And so that's one thing that we're going to be looking for is for it to hold. Here's the nice thing for NIO. The great thing on NIO here And you can see in all of these runs, broke below. We've got so much space above, and there's a high probability that I believe it's going to break. It's going to stay above that. Like, it's absolutely tremendous. But mentally prepare yourself, I think, for lower. I don't think $8.40 is still in the cards. Maybe it is. Maybe this was just the one fluke candle, and then unless you get like a complete V shape reversal on Monday and everything, comes back, it seems like the momentum is coming to a stop, and it looks like it wants to give you a little bit of a cool off period. 4 hours. Okay. We're going to erase everything. 4 hours. We're going to go to the 2 hours. This is the 2 hours is the one that we like the most actually here. It is super oversold. Way oversold. If I look at the velocity, the only time it's ever been this low was pretty much the March and April crash. When it crashed down, that was the low. That's how much it's over. That's how fast this thing is. It's not RSI. That's how fast this thing is sold off. And you could go back historically in time and look at every single time it's hit this low. You've gotten massive bounces. You would get bounces. Even here, I mean, actually, it did give you one leg lower, but it gave you a gigantic bounce after the fact. So it's super low on the lower time frames here. And when you make lower lows, like we need to break back above the 200-day moving average. Now, when you had that, by the way, when we had, and I'm just going to look back here on NIO, when we did have that reversal that took place on NIO, it needed to first break above the 200-day moving average. And it was trying actually here and here, but it was making higher highs with lower velocity. And you can actually see the downtrend here. Lower low, lower high, although it did tick up this high. So it's a very confusing thing. And I don't know. I really don't know where to say it, where to pin things actually. What I do know is at some point, NIO was going to form a handle. And if it wants to form the handle now, let it do it. Let it form this handle so it can freaking go all the way up. Get it over with. Get it over with so you guys can look for nothing but up. And it has to happen. It happens on multiple stocks, and it's bound to happen. And so I don't think this is actually, and this is going to be something where you got to be like, oh my God, we're heading back to like, no, not at all. I think it's just going to be a moderate, healthy correction that's going to be taking place. And I wonder if I could just, let's see. I'm trying to get you some different, what if I go all the way from down to here? 550, 491. Yeah, I like measuring from here. Doesn't really make too much of a difference here, but 572, 515. We just lost technically 651. It's going to need to reclaim that. Definitely wants to reclaim that. Something's changed though. You can see here. Bounced. And it was bouncing, and now it's broken. It's broken below that. So I mean, just by looking at this, you could even say like, okay, it retests and it wants to just chill. Off it goes. And how I think that would look like, it would maybe look like this. I don't know. A really poor drawing. Off it goes. 200-day moving average, by the way, made a higher high. It cleared this high. It cleared all the highs. You can see it's cleared everything. I think, and by the way, how big of a retracement was this move? right to the golden pocket, by the way. Before we went complete parabolic, you got a golden pocket retrace just on the 0.618. So you got to just hang tight and wait for that swing back up. That golden pocket, just so there's no shock value, is $4.50. I can't rule that out. And the 0.786, which is $3.99, I can't potentially rule that out because of how heavy I think NIO has one of the bigger retail holders. And because of that, when you drop a stock down to these levels, you scare the shit out of retail. And retail gets scared, they shake it, and then they launch it. And of course, smart money is going to want to grab that before they send it to the moon. And I looked at SoFi. SoFi was an example where it had a similar retracement, where it had before it went, it gave you a really deep pullback. Golden pocket was kind of like the pull, and there was even this move. You can say like you could. Golden pocket again. All right, so I don't know if this is helpful information here for you. I still remain very, very, very bullish on NIO long term. Short term, we're looking for a break of the 200-day moving average. I'll be happy to tweet that out when that actually happens. Let's erase everything. It's getting very messy on that 2-hour time frame. You can almost call that resistance. That's beautiful. When you actually, by the way, when you see this, when you see the price making higher highs and the velocity making lower lows, and it doesn't happen often, but it happens on rising stocks. When you see that, yes, buyers are getting exhausted, but oftentimes when it's finally ready to break to the upside, the next spot it wants to go to, let's say, and let's stretch this out. Let's just say January. Let's just say January is the next rally. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Bear with me here. You know what ends up happening? Usually, let's just say this draws out, whatever. It'll come back after it's kind of given you this break. It's a very, very bullish thing that when I see that, to me, that means it wants to push higher. And I've seen it time and time again. One particular example, I'll use AMD as an example here because I remember seeing this specifically on AMD. In fact, you see it right over here where AMD made a higher high on the price, but made a lower low on the velocity. And off it went. It wanted to and of course it destroyed that trend line. And it did it a few times. Not the first time that it's done it. It did it right over here. Take a look at this. This is coming back to, I used to watch AMD back in May of 2023. I'm showing you another example where you've seen this. Notice how it leaves like that. Technically it's a bearish divergence, but to me those are really interesting because it creates these interesting trend lines where when and it does it on the 24-hour time frame too. Yeah, right here. Notice what it did. Right over here. Finally broke out, broke above, gave you that pullback, and where does it go? Boop, right to the top. And that's why these trend lines are very, very bullish. And NIO, I believe, has that same thing on the 24-hour time frame. Look at this. It has this. Oh my goodness, so bullish. It has this. Okay. No, I would actually use this as a trend line. Like that is so bullish when you see that bearish divergence form. And when I've seen it happen, I'm telling you, and it's rare. You can go back. And you don't see it. You don't see it here. You actually don't see it really here at all either. We see it here where the velocity makes a lower high, but the price makes a higher high. on that 24-hour time frame. And that's usually really, really bullish. Because when we get that reversal, say a bear flag plays out, okay? You know, bear flag plays out. When it's ready, you can see where this is going next. Which I think, I mean, it almost leads to 1438, 39. Which would make sense, I think, from like a price perspective. So I'm just trying to let you know this is what I think. And I think it's going to be very, very, very bullish. I wouldn't look at that minus 10% day and say there's anything out of it. Look at BABA, minus 9%, Baidu, 8%. And these stocks have been on a rip. You look at Baidu, completely on a rip, completely on a tear, and it's giving you a healthy pullback. That's fine. That's completely fine. You want to know where Baidu might end up? You know, the 50% on the Baidu is 112, almost there. BABA, by the way, I talked about this last week. I said, look where it topped out. I'm like, surely it's not going to top out, but it looked like it wanted to give you a pullback here, right at the top, BABA, where it went, which makes me think like, okay, does it want to? It either wants to reclaim this mid channel if we get that V reversal, or it's going to come down into like 135, 134. It's going to chill out here, and it's going to turn this into support. You know, it's going to turn this into support, and off it goes. Big drops like that, usually you need a lower high. So if it comes down, your lower high, and then off it goes. And the lower highs are usually, it typically likes to come up to the golden pocket, and then you get that trend line, and then boom, it goes. That's usually how stocks like to go. And if I were to do that same thing on NIO, by the way, if we were to pretend like, okay, there's going to be a secondary mini rally, and it all depends. Like if the bottom, let's just assume the bottom was in, okay, 641, it's not going to go any lower. Your lower high rally, and I think it will go lower, but let's just say it doesn't. 744, and then it's going to chill for a bit, and then it's going to go. However, I don't think it's going to, I mean, that might be too optimistic. Maybe it will happen, but I think you're going to see it come much lower. Probably take out this low. 550 is the most likely scenario. There's support there too. Let's say that's where it comes. Draws down a little bit lower. And there's big, you might be thinking like, hey, there's big fib levels at 596. There is. So let's just actually, okay, let's say 596. Let's use that as a number. The bounce comes at 596. Your next rally point is going to be 728. That's your golden pocket. And then it cools off into January again. So it's like, whoa, there we go. Let's go. It cools off into January. It's just, think of it like a bigger bull flag. And then in January, off you go. Kind of like that's the cycle you're looking at. Currently it's down. It's going to come up, give you that lower high. That'll also give you that trend line. And this is most likely to take below that to give you, you know, some sort of bullish divergence. Something along those lines. And it doesn't have to give you the golden pocket. It could easily, because Hood didn't do that. What Hood did, it could do this. It could just come down, only give you like a 0.236, 640. It chills, and then it goes. And I think that's kind of what Hood did. If I were to measure that, not hoof. Okay, I can't type. Hood. If we were to go back down to our example here and measure that pullback, it was right here. There it is. Oh my God. Where'd it go? Right over here. Okay, now I'm lost. Where I'm looking at good. Okay, I apologize. Jesus. Okay, I promise. No more flashing around, changing the screens. I'm studying this because I do believe. Take a look at this one, actually. Hood, when it started dropping, gave you a retrace to the 50%, and then it gave you another leg lower. And when it did make that lower leg, by the way, it did bounce up to the 0.236 and went. And let's just do something here. Let's see if I can do this. I think you guys might like this. And I think I might like it too. Oops. Didn't want to do that. This is what I wanted to do. Let's go to NIO. Where's NIO now? If you guys like fractals, is that how it was? Did I copy it from the right section? I think I did. Yeah. Hang on. Did I do that right? What did I actually copy it from? I don't think I did that right. Bear with me. Top to bottom there. We'll just do that. Go back to NIO. That's why it didn't look right. I had to scale this. There it is. Okay, I think I kind of did it. How's that look? All right. Something like that. Oh, wow. Something like this. Let's see if I can get it right. And I'm just trying to help you guys imagine price action. There's your hood price action. That's your hood fractal. You guys see that? Isn't that crazy? 15, 17, back down to you get like that $8 dip. Absolutely incredible. So I do think this is a total possibility. And I do think it's the cup and handle. Cup, handle, off you go. And then if we're going to catch that reversal is going to happen after the 2 hour. And again, if we were to go and study hood again, I think it's a good example. If you're to go all the way back to the 2 hours, if we want to study that one more time, just so you guys we're all on the same page here. We're on the 2 hour time frame. This was your cup, by the way. You had that little bit of a short rally, lower low, cool off, and boom, it went. So you broke above the 200-day moving average. Now notice, true thing happened is when this thing started curling up and making a higher low, and you can, I mean, without a doubt, say when the 200-day moving average broke above the midline, that was totally the top. And so there you have it. I think NIO's forming its handle. I think there's nothing to worry about here on NIO. There was always going to be that cool off. And again, that's my analysis on NIO going into next week. I expect some potential downside, and at some point there's going to be some sort of bounce. I think there's going to be a vicious bounce because it is pretty much in very oversold territories. You're going to get that nice little lift, potentially lower, off it goes. There's been people who've told me, man, it's never going to go back down to 6s or 5s. Well, we're not far off from there. We're not far off. The 5s are only 7% away. That's super close. Coming off a 10%, 13% down day. It's looking like it's very likely that we're going to see a little bit more downside. And if I had to bet when this thing finally goes, I'm betting January. Like I think January is the time for NIO for it to do this big move. And if you look at the seasonality, actually December has been pretty good seasonally. in 2023, it had a rally here in Jan as well, which topped at January 26th, a 24% rally in 2023, which was, where was it? Was it this one? Where's 2023? January. It was right over. Jeez. That was bizarre. We're past this time. Anyways, now I'm getting sidetracked, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, definitely hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my videos. I'm sorry for not actually answering and commenting to any of the questions from my last week's video. I've just been very busy. You might have noticed that I'm not tweeting as often. I've just been focusing on my health, going outside a lot more often, going for more walks, which I recommend you guys all do. And I'm sorry. I'll try and be better and come back to my last week's video and respond to that as well as this week's video. If there are any questions, leave it in the comment section below. As always, because it's Saturday, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And for those of you that are Canadian, I hope you guys have a wonderful long weekend for Thanksgiving. Thank you guys and have a nice day.